The verse of the day is Colossians 3:23 through 24, and it says, "Work willingly at whatever you do as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward and that the master you are serving is Christ." So today's scripture is really, really helpful for you and I today because it speaks to how to have joy in the midst of any job that we have. How to see anything that we do, even chores and things that seem mundane, to be serving God. But we can't go there without talking about the context, which can be kind of difficult to explain because the context of today's verse is talking about slaves back in the day. And transparently, I don't have all the answers for this and I'm still learning, but I tried to do as much research as possible. And what I found through one article that I thought was really good was back in the day, in ancient times, slavery was more like an occupation. It was a job that people could go into to pay off debt, and they were paid wages, and it was seen more as employment than what the connotation has today, which is towards the race-based slavery and the kidnapping of people slavery. And so as I was reading more, Paul doesn't necessarily say that slavery is wrong in today's scripture, because back then it would have done no good to just say it's not good if there were people who were wanting to be in that workplace to pay off debt. And so he thought that it would be better to go from the inside out, transform people from the inside out, which is really how any of us get transformation anyways, and changing our perspective that anything that we do is to honor the Lord, that the Lord is our master, not people. And so there were rules for both the slaves and the masters to treat their slaves as equal, and for the slaves to see any work as doing work for the Lord so that they can maintain their joy. And it wasn't until a lot later that the race-based slavery entered the picture. From what I understand, I think it will be easier to have a visual and to read what I was reading. A man named William Wilberforce was actually one of the men behind the abolishment of slavery, and he was a Christian man. So they saw that the old description of slavery was twisted, and that's when the race-based slavery was birthed, and people who saw it change and become something that wasn't good tried to abolish it. So this guy, William, there's probably other people, I don't know, I don't have all the info, fought to get rid of it. And this paragraph kind of helped me understand it a little more. So it says, Paul's teaching so transformed the master-slave relationship because in his teaching, he's explaining that everyone is equal. And the best way that this is going to work, the masters have to treat their slaves as equal, and the slaves have to see their work as working for the Lord. And the whole understanding is the Lord is everyone's master. So it goes back to, if you put God first and you pursue the person of love, you're going to have more love to give, whether you're a master or a slave. And your focus will be working for God and not anything else, which will help you be a man or a woman of integrity and help you find joy in the midst of whatever you're doing, whether you are working as a slave or not. So it says, while it was still there in form, slavery was effectively abolished, even if its outer shell remained. And so when the institution of race-based kidnapping-fueled slavery in the New World emerged, it was so out of kilter with biblical principles that Christians like William Wilberforce led the fight to have slavery abolished. I think it's easy to hear the word slavery and go to judgment instantly and be like, okay, if the Bible doesn't say no to slavery, then the whole thing must be wrong. But I think it's really important to understand that context. And maybe if slavery hadn't have been twisted to become something evil later on in life with the race-based slavery, then we wouldn't have such a negative connotation of it. And Paul, I believe, before that happened, was trying to take something that could be an occupation and make it a healthy, in terms of everyone has to see everyone else and treat everyone else with love. And so the master has to treat the slave as equal, and the slave has to work with integrity and do their job like they're serving the Lord. And back then, a lot of people chose to be in that job, from what I've read. And then obviously anything can be twisted to become evil. Anything in life can become really bad. And it was people who were trying to maintain the principles of today's verse that say, work willingly at whatever you do as though you are working for the Lord. And chapter 4, verse 1 says, masters, be just and fair to your slaves. Remember that you also have a master in heaven. So Paul was trying to say, hey, we need to change the perspective of both parties here so that we can all honor God and treat each other well, equally, and with respect. And then obviously it got changed and taken to be something very evil. And then because it wasn't aligning with the principles, what I read was Christians actually were like, okay, we need to abolish this thing altogether. So that's the context of the verse, which kind of took up all of our time. But I think it's easy to translate that into today's world. Work willingly at whatever you do, as if you are working for the Lord and not people. How often do we get in jobs that we don't like? I've been in jobs that I didn't like and I couldn't wait to get out. And it was in the enduring and waiting on the Lord and asking God to help me learn whatever lesson I need to learn, and to just see my work as working for Him that helps me maintain my joy. And I think that goes for any mundane task, whether it be chores or things that we don't want to do. If we see it as working for God and being obedient to take good care of ourselves, which means we are honoring who God created, which is us, then we'll have more joy in the mundane tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis. I believe sometimes God keeps us in jobs that we don't like to really develop our character, to help us get to a place of seeing it as working for Him and enduring whatever it is we don't like, and trying to learn whatever lesson He wants us to learn, because He has us where He has us for a reason at every stage in our life. And that is truly where character development is had in any job or in any season where I was like, God, I want to get out of this. I learned so much about myself, and I saw true character development. And those are those moments that prepare you for the next season, when you're ready for the real job that will probably bring you joy and the satisfaction that you're craving. But at the same time, there's always going to be days where we don't feel like it. So today's verse helps us remember we're working for God. Anything we do isn't pointless, and it has purpose, and it helps us maintain our joy that nothing is void, nothing is useless in our life. We have an opportunity to see everything that we do as honor to God. So that was me trying to explain a hard topic to the best of my ability. I hope it was helpful, and we probably still have more to learn about this. Okay?